Growing up in Australia, who were some of your idols?
I was a big fan of Pat Cash. Back when I was a child, Australia had a richer heritage and we had a lot more players in the top 100. Pat Cash won Wimbledon right as I was getting into tennis, and I loved that headband that he wore, and he was a classic serve volley player. So he was fun to watch, and it's been nice for me now to get to know Pat and really reinforce kind of the reasons why I loved him. He's a great guy.
You were a #1 table tennis player in Australia at one point. Do you still play recreationally?
I don't. I played a lot of table tennis until I was 15 years old, and it was taking time away from tennis. I had to go down one road, and tennis seemed like it could open up more doors. It's a global sport, and I enjoyed it more. So unfortunately, I don't play table tennis. It does affect my strokes a little in tennis. I've got an unorthodox game because of the table tennis background, so I try and stay away from it.
Coming from Australia, how difficult of a transition was it moving to Texas for college?
Well, not difficult at all. Once I was over the initial homesickness, which took about a week, college tennis is a lot of fun and it moves really quickly, and you don't have time to get caught up and miss things. It was a lot of fun. I jumped straight into the season in January and had a great bunch of guys around me, which really helped. I had a terrific coach, Tut Bartson. Our team did well, and it's something that I'll look back on with fond memories. I loved my 4 years at TCU.
You reached the quarterfinal at Wimbledon in 2004 with Nikolai Davydenko as your partner. What was playing with him like?
Well, it's not like any other doubles tandem that I've ever had, in the sense that Nikolai and we weren't good friends. We barely knew each other, and Nikolai doesn't spend a lot of time or energy on double strategy. It was simply take care of your half of the court, and it worked. And it was funny because when I looked at the draw, I really didn't think there'd be too many teams we could beat. I knew Nikolai served and stayed back, which on grass I thought was a crazy tactic, but he played incredible. And it's a similar story to my title in Indianapolis. I've been having a real poor year, was looking at possibly retiring and taking another job, and out of nowhere, had my best result to date at quarterfinals in the Grand Slam.
Now, Indianapolis, that was your last title. How do you feel about them moving the tournament to Atlanta this year?
Well, as much as I enjoyed playing in Indianapolis, it's got a special place in my heart. I made the finals the next year. It had a lot of success over the years, but the last few years the tournament struggled with crowds and attendance. I went to Atlanta this year. Not the case. Atlanta's a hotbed for tennis. They have 80,000 Alta members, and the crowds were fantastic. So, yeah, I'm all about tournaments being in cities that showcase our great sport and have plenty of fans coming out to support tennis, and that's happening in Atlanta.
What do you miss most about Australia?
I miss a lot of things. I grew up near the coast, so I love getting down and having a bit of a body bash in the waves. Of course, I miss my family. My sister has 2 young kids, and they change so much in 6 months or a year. Everything else kind of stays the same. The Australian sports that I grew up following are tough to sort of maintain and follow here. But having said that, I love America. I've been here since I came away to college, so whether it's Australia or the US, I'm happy in both countries.
Do you surf?
I body surf. I didn't have much success when I tried to get up on the board. I lost at about 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, me either. I tried in Australia actually for the first time last Australian Open around that time.
Right. The work to reward ratio in surfing
It's
is
so much work. Yeah.
Put a lot of effort in just to get out there, and for that split second, you enjoy yourself.
Right.
It's a couple of hours of work.
How old were you when you went to your first Australian Open?
I played juniors down there when I was 17. That was my first Australian Open.
Oh, so you never went as a spectator?
I never did. No,
Oh, wow.
I watched on TV every year.
Do you get any extra satisfaction from coaching a fellow Aussie and Paul Hanley?
Not really. No, it's not about coaching someone from my country. I get satisfaction from helping people that I'm close to and friends. And Paul and Simon fit that bill. They're both great people, and you always want to see your friends do well, and especially when they charge you with the responsibility for getting the most out of them. And so far, Paul and Simon have had some good results with me, and I'm happy to see them playing well.
You have a house in Beijing. What do you like most about that city?
Well, I've since moved from Beijing. My wife works for the Sony Ericsson WTA Tour. They have an office out there. So we were based in Beijing last year. We're now back in St. Pete. It was a great experience. Not many people can say they've lived in China for a year and a half. It was a little too far away from everything for my liking, but once I was there, I enjoyed it. It's an exciting city, somewhat similar to New York. It has a very energetic vibe about it.
What's the best tennis city on the tour, would you say?
Jeez, I mean, Melbourne would have to come close. It's not just a big tennis city, it's a huge sporting city. It doesn't matter what event is on. And what I look for with a city hosting a tournament is for that tournament just to take over the entire city in the news, and the Australian Open does that. You pick up a newspaper and the first 6-8 pages will all be Australian Open coverage. You can't meet anybody in Melbourne who doesn't know about the Australian Open, so it's an exciting 2 weeks.
Esplin and Hanley have had great successes of late, but what do you think could still be improved about their game?
Well, it's just finding the things they do well, which are serving, returning, volleying, and being able to replicate that on a more consistent basis. I'm trying to get them to be a little more aggressive at the net. They're both big, strong, physical guys. So I'd like to see them just taking some more chances and not being so concerned with being beaten up the line.
How does coaching doubles compare to playing it?
Well, it's probably the next best thing. I love playing, and I dearly miss it. It's been a very tough year for me on the sidelines watching the tournaments and watching our friends do well. But I love tennis, the ATP World Tour, and I'm happy to be involved in any capacity. And so coaching, whether it's coaching, commentating, it fits that bill. I enjoy being here and seeing these events firsthand.
A couple of years ago, with the success of players like Nadal, Murray, and Djokovic, it seemed that the men's singles game was it's moving in more of a defensive direction. But now, with the recent impressive Grand Slam showings of big hitters like Del Potro, Soderling, and Berdych, it appears that there has been a resurgence of the big man tennis. Do you think this trend will continue?
Yeah, I do. If you look at the average height of players over the years, they're getting taller and taller. It was Pat Cash that actually told me when he was playing, the average player was 5'10". It's now 6'1". A guy like Del Potro, Berdych, they're sort of the new prototype. They're these guys that are 6'6", that hit the ball big, but they move well also. So that's the way the game's being taught to juniors. I'm constantly amazed when I see a 17-year-old kid hitting a serve at 130, but technology and new coaching has led to tennis being a power game, and we'll continue to see that moving forward.
Okay, it's prediction time. What do you expect the Legg Mason singles final matchup to be, and who will prevail?
Geez, the way David Nalbandian is playing right now, it's hard to see anybody getting by him. He's been in incredible form, and it's great to see him back on tour. We caught a glimpse of how good he was in last month's Davis Cup tie against Russia, where he beat Yuzhny Davydenko. But now we're seeing him back on the ATP World Tour. He's mowed through the singles draw so far. He's got a tough match against Gilles Simon. I expect him to prevail, and I look for him to get past probably Thomas Berdych in the final.
Finally, who do you think the next first-time Grand Slam singles champion will be?
I can see there being Thomas Berdych or Robin Soderling. A lot of people will look at me with skeptical eyes and say, "You're kidding? It's going to be Andy Murray." But this year's US Open is wide open, and I can see the way Berdych and Soderling have been playing. They're going to be suited to those fast courts in New York, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those guys hoist the trophy on the second Sunday.
Well, Ashley, it was a real pleasure talking with you, and good luck on your team's match against Fischer Knowles later tonight.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.